Hello, my name is Harry Harker. I'm the current president of the Planning Institute of British Columbia. The Institute, together with our South Vancouver Island chapter, are pleased to bring you this very important video presentation entitled Planning for the Creatives.
Some urban design professionals in the Victoria area have been thinking along similar lines. They've been making connections between their work and the creative subculture. Other issues that come into play include economic development and service-based economy, the arts, youth subculture, and the changing nature of business and family.
Man creates art, creates humanity, and art is the art of living. We all use art in different ways to sustain life. I mean, some of us bake, some of us dance, some of us are flaneurs, the art of observation. But we have to do it in a place that we feel comfortable and not threatened. Take a stockbroker, someone who is used to, let's say he's doing well, and then you have an artist who is used to another lifestyle which is light years away from anything the stockbroker would want, desire, or conceive. But there's no reason why the two couldn't live in the same area and feed each other off of their own way of seeing the world. It's healthy.
I've been here for over 20 years now, but actually don't live here. This is my workspace. And I find the downtown very stimulating. Actually, I couldn't work as I work here if I was at home. The only work I do at home is actually on the computer. And anything that's two-dimensional or four-dimensional, I do in the studio. It's like the flowers in the city. They don't sell anything, but they're important. The trees are important. And if you see a city with lots of parks and lots of green spaces, they don't produce any money, but they make this life attractive in the city. But the same with the artist community, they will make their life attractive.
There's something about Cook Street Village that just when you're passing, you really don't realize what's happening there, but it takes some stopping and thinking and analyzing. Why is Cook Street Village so popular? I was at a rezoning meeting in Oak Bay at City Council. We left City Council meeting in the evening. It was 10:30, 11. We went over to the little pub in Oak Bay, had a beer with the mayor actually after the meeting, and then we were yakking. We walk outside at 11 or 11:30 at night, and it's dead, completely dead. So I want to go for coffee. I go down and I think, well, maybe Starbucks is open in Cook Street Village. I go down to Cook Street Village, and it's like it's in the middle of the Saturday afternoon. It's bustling. Both coffee shops are full. People are walking up and down the sidewalk. And I'm thinking, what is it? So I think what it is a whole combination of little things. Cook Street Village is within walking distance of downtown. What that means is you don't need to drive your car. You can live in that area and walk to town. You have shopping, you have a grocery store, you have video, you have coffee shops, you got restaurants, all in a little area.
Well, I moved here in 1996. I lived in the village, and I met Ab in 1996 because of sitting in the coffee shops and conversing with other people. And you have it, like I lived in the village for 5 years, and coming back and forth, you get to stop and talk to people that worked at the Mac store, that worked at the local coffee shop, and you get that sense of community. So if I'm just driving through and I'm stopping at the laundromat and picking up my laundry, you're not going to get a chance to stop and talk to the people about it. Everything here is built for what this community wants. I own a janitorial housekeeping company, and a ton of my networking is done through knowing people. I don't spend half as much on budgeting or ads or anything like that. It's all like, in fact, just yesterday we were sitting there and this guy walked in and he was talking about what he did, and Ab knew him, and I was like, oh, who's that? You have to introduce me. I'm sitting in the coffee shop, you can sit down and get to know me too. You can ask questions if you want. Like, you're open to that in a closed, knit community. Yeah, I lived on Harold Street, where it's a live-work situation, so you're in studio apartments, and it makes it a more comfortable environment for you to work in. Like, it really does. I don't have to fret about getting up and running to the office and opening up the door for other people. Like, I can just wake up in my pajamas and make the calls that I need to make if I need to.
Well, my wife and I both have worked for ourselves for about the last 10 years, and we work out of our home. And I think some of the greatest benefits about it for a place like Victoria is it creates more of a sense of community. It brings people and business all into a central kind of core. And so I think that it just creates a stronger community. People get out of their cars. One of the greatest things for me about being here is we walk everywhere. We ride our bicycles when we need to go a little bit further. And occasionally we get in our car when we want to go take a little trip to the beach or something. But basically everything is all on a human scale. So we can walk around and go about our daily business in a very calm and enjoyable way. And the other element, I guess, that's really important for us is our family, because so many parents nowadays, they go off to work, and on the way they drop their kid off at a daycare center, and then they pick them up on the way home and have supper and go to bed. And for us, we want to experience family 24 hours a day.
I think it's really wonderful when your life and your work are woven together, and for our children to see that, so that there's not such a drastic cut in what I do and my time with my son, and it feels very interconnected. He would come to class with me, he would come to my workshops, and it feels like that's where real learning and real teaching happens, and also that he becomes an integral part of my life, which is what we see in other cultures where children aren't left alone, they're part of the community. Then he gets to know the shoemaker, the baker, because he's with me with my work that takes me throughout the community, and so it feels really connected.
Is he singing like a ukulele? I learned 4 and then I forgot them and I learned 4 and I forgot.
Interesting space here where we've got both a building that has live-work as well as office spaces in it, right adjacent to other retrofit industrial buildings that have been turned into offices. And what we've got here is a courtyard that's essentially functions both as a parking lot and an entrance to both buildings. It's not overly fussy and fancy, but it's common materials. It's reuse of some of the industrial components from the building for bollards. It's simple materials like asphalt, but somehow the blend of all these rather rough and a bit gritty materials makes a really an exciting and unexpected use of materials and space. So in the establishment of this courtyard, there was a conscious effort not to clean it up too much and not to take off the graffiti. In fact, in the 5 years, it probably hasn't evolved that much. There's an interesting play over there of vines and graffiti, so it all works together and makes a really interesting urban environment that educates young people and old people about the culture of living in an intense urban space. Even the reuse of the old freight elevator makes for an interesting space, a little different than the average elevator. It also makes it a little easier on moving day for everybody. One of the projects that we're working on right now is the rail yards, which is taking a brownfield or a former rail yard, shunting yard, and creating a new community that's on a bit of an edgy industrial zone. It sits on a waterfront, the Gorge Waterway. The potential there is There's a Galloping Goose Trail, which is a major commuter pedestrian trail that will front the whole project. That means both creatives and people who are interested in the environment can take a role in a project like this. The important thing in urban landscapes is to have these very interesting but tight outdoor spaces that are patios or a place to spill out of a small bistro or a few chairs on the street. And a lot of those aren't designed. There's the opportunities for them that should be created, but they don't have to be specified or controlled. There'll be live work along Tyee Road here next to light industrial. There's the opportunity to have your own stoop and shingle hanging out on the street, roll up a garage door and be able to sell your wares or have a graphic design studio or even a potter, that sense.
I think there's an increasing interest in the quality of the urban realm as a place to be, as opposed to a place to get from one place to another. And that is done in many ways in terms of the arrangement of the buildings, the design of the pavement, the design of the street furniture, and the interest that business owners and property owners take in what their buildings look like. I think more intricacy, more detail, more surprise. It just draws people into the city or into a town as a place just to be, rather than a necessity, I guess. People who go to cities tend to go and spend money, and that's certainly the case in Europe. There's many examples of businesses that exist just simply to cater to people who want to be in an urban space. It's kind of a universal truth about good cities, is that they're diverse and they're not segregated by demographic, by age, by economic status. There should be something for everybody to enjoy. The more monocultural places become, the more boring they become, or the more exclusionary they are.
I really enjoyed Michael's presentation because of this sort of emphasis on concentration, and I'm encouraged to see this, that this is happening, because the notion that was around a few years ago where everybody was fleeing to small communities, well, yeah, that's fine, that has happened to a certain extent, but it hasn't been the majority. You don't stop working or creating or thinking when you're 65. You keep right on going, and all of that energy and creativity it's still there. The emphasis with Michael's presentation is on how you do it, to attract economic development. Well, okay, that's fine. Yeah, that will happen, but I still would like to encourage it for its own sake, to make the community more dynamic.
I'm going to talk about the example about Germany, obviously, because that's where I know the most, and Hamburg and Berlin, and how there are also quarters that are trendy, where all the creative people end up living, mostly because they're affordable, because sometimes you might not even have central heating and you have a coal oven, but people don't mind carrying the coals up because the rent is so much cheaper, but also because there is a type of life or quality of life that is different to all the other quarters, which is a lot of freedom, which means hole-in-the-wall places, cafes, cultural mix. And those are the places in Germany that are attracting cultural creatives. I think it's important to recognize how people use space, because you can see it. If you walk through Victoria, any city, on a winter's day, and you look at where people use space by the footsteps in the snow, you know where to put the path systems. It's not really a big science. You just have to open your eyes and you see how people use our cities, and a lot of the times it's just not done.
Okay, one of the things I look at when I'm doing with community plans is the first thing I'll do when I'm going into a community is I'll stand up and I'll read out of the Local Government Act that this is what is required for an official community plan. I'll read out of the Local Government Act, say this is what is required for a zoning bylaw, and then I look at it and I take it, I go like this for theatrics, throw it on the ground and say that is what is required. It doesn't tell you how to make the plan. And then I go out and say to the community, this is what we are doing. We are making the plan. We have to find out what your issues are. We have to find out what your values are, and we put that into your plan.
what we're calling today the creatives or the cultural creatives, and there are many words that we use. It's really a phenomenon that's been around for a long time, where we've seen older districts, warehouse districts, or the old manufacturing part of town, which with the decline in the manufacturing sector have become abandoned, and a youth culture, young people who were starting out their lives, starting out their careers, they've been looking for spaces that are affordable. They could just go in and transform these large spaces to accommodate anywhere from film production to photography to architectural firms to, I can't even imagine all of it, because there is so many different activities where creativity doesn't stop. The space allows it, the economics work for this place, and it's affordable.
PIBC's mission is to be a vibrant, well-recognized, and well-subscribed professional organization that is at the forefront of change, collaborating with the public, other professions, and governments to create and maintain sustainable communities.